A Small Town Do-Over. Book 10, Love in Harmony Valley. By Melinda Curtis. Chapter 1. Claudia Giordano had a pedigree. And she wasn't even a poodle. Generations of Giordanos were masters in the kitchen, renowned for their exclusive clientele. Uncle Guido's restaurant in Chicago's Little Italy was rumored to have served Al Capone pasta Vesuvio. Claudia's parents had once plated eggplant parmigiana for A-list celebrities at their restaurant in Malibu. Nana Blanca had once served deep dish pizza to a presidential candidate. And Claudia? She'd served a food critic spaghetti Locurcio at a restaurant in Napa. The simpleton hadn't realized the difference between al dente and a la carte. He'd sent the plate back and she'd sent him a piece of her mind. Unfortunately, he collected followers like a brand new chef collected recipes. His negative review cost Claudia her job and her job prospects. Claudia pushed her wheelchair-bound grandmother down Harmony Valley's Main Street's brick sidewalk feeling like she'd hit rock bottom and then been flung on the rocks, again and again, until the only place she could crawl to recover was Siberia. Or the backcountry town of Harmony Valley. She hadn't visited Harmony Valley in more than a decade, but everything looked exactly the same. Quaint old buildings, quaint town square, and the quaint smell of fresh air because with a population of less than 100, and most of those octogenarians, rush hour wasn't much of a rush. So you lost your job. Nana tightened the knot of the Italian flag scarf covering her drugstore, ink-black hair. Big deal. Why do you want to cook someone else's food? Because the pay is good. And her rent was high. I pay you good. At 82, Nana had decided retirement was for the dead and reopened her pizzeria. A fall 2 weeks ago had broken her hip, but not her spirit. When she'd heard about Claudia's disgrace, she'd immediately called and offered her minimum wage. Part-time. So much for pedigree. With the stench of a bad review tainting her reputation, it was either become a part-time pizza cook or declare bankruptcy. Claudia had arrived yesterday. Wave to the Diaz boy. Nana's voice was as thick as freshly made tomato paste as she unlocked the pizzeria's front door. It pays to be friendly to the competition. Claudia raised her hand toward the man sweeping the outdoor dining patio across the road. The man, tall, lean, and heart-attack handsome, had a perfect smile formed by perfect lips. Lips Claudia still remembered kissing. Breathe, girl. It's not the end of the world. But it might just as well have been. Claudia wasn't wearing a manslaying dress with killer heels. She didn't have a killer job at a to-die-for restaurant. And that man wasn't looking at her in faded track pants and a baggy hoodie and wanting to expire from did not call regret. Heaven forbid he came over to say hi and got a whiff of the garlic-laden frittata she'd had for breakfast. She hurried to open the door and push Nana inside. And then she stopped because this was a colossal mistake in a series of colossal mistakes. Nana's restaurant looked like a cheap dive that served pizza by the slice just off a college campus. Yellow plastic chairs and red formica tables on a dull black linoleum floor. A soda dispenser broke up the monotony of dingy white walls. But the ultimate chef's horror sat in plain sight on the counter, a microwave. Claudia felt ill, and it wasn't from her frittata. You sold food here? Successfully? This restaurant supported your father as a child. Nana spun her wheelchair to face Claudia, bumping her shins with the leg rest. You think it ruins the Giordano family name? Nana kept coming, backing Claudia against the wall. You think I don't know how to run a restaurant? Claudia refused to disrespect Nana's feelings anymore, but everywhere she looked there was something every chef, even fallen ones, found distasteful, demeaning, or demoralizing. She even tried looking out the window. But there was Enzo Diaz, gorgeous as ever, leaning on his broom and smiling, that perfect smile. Lorenzo Diaz finished sweeping the outside dining area of El Rosal, wearing a smile that felt as foolish as he'd been 12 years ago. His grandfather poked his grizzled head out the front door. Felipe wore the restaurant's standard uniform, black slacks, white shirt, and black tennis shoes, his orthopedic. Who was that pushing Blanca? There was no keeping secrets in Harmony Valley. Or from his family. Her granddaughter. From afar, Claudia was still the same dark-haired beauty that had mesmerized him at 15. That's bad. Very bad. Why? Enzo followed his grandpa into the restaurant. With salsa music playing and the sun slanting onto the rainbow-colored tables, chairs, and mosaic tiles, Enzo felt like dancing with someone. And he knew just who he wanted to dance with. Claudia. How often did life hand you a do-over? We have a monopoly in town. Grandpa trundled next to him with a rolling gait. Business has been up since Blanca broke her hip and closed. That might have been an overstatement. And we have many mouths to feed. His grandmother Myra stood in the kitchen doorway, not one salt and pepper hair out of place. She was short and squat, and looked like an unsmiling Buddha wearing a black apron with a white dishcloth draped over one shoulder. Thoughts of dancing and holding a woman close evaporated. The pizza business isn't enough to break us. Overstaffing was. Recently, Grandma had hired 2 of Enzo's cousins and 1 of his younger sisters. Enzo cooked the food and balanced the books. He knew they couldn't afford so many workers, but Grandma had the final say. Blanca only serves lunch. El Rosal served breakfast, lunch, and dinner, plus had the only bar and small convenience store in a remote country town without a grocery. The Giordanos are chefs. Grandma's voice was as tight and territorial as a terrier tied up on a cozy terrace. She and Blanca had been in competition for decades. What if she's here to make Blanca's place into something more? Chefs make white tablecloth food. Frustration put an answering growl in Enzo's voice. Every time I want to update the menu, you say Harmony Valley doesn't want white tablecloth food. This is true. Grandpa sat on a blue bar stool. Myra resists change like a snail resists a speeding ticket. Grandma rolled her eyes. The winery has a tasting room now. Visitors will come and want white tablecloth food over our traditional menu. We must know what Blanca has planned. Enzo pounded broom bristles on tile. He'd never be allowed to contribute more than mole tacos and citrus shrimp salsa to the menu. If it worries you, why don't you go over and ask Claudia? We can't do that. Grandma's peppery brows trembled. Blanca will think we're spying on her. You are. Enzo pounded the broom bristles once more. You go. Grandpa took the broom from Enzo. Ask them if they will remain open only for lunch and only serve pizza. An excuse to fraternize with the enemy? Enzo almost smiled, almost forgot the frustrating position he was in with the family, caught between tradition, obligation, and ambition. Why won't Blanca think I'm a spy? Because her granddaughter is a beautiful woman. Grandpa salsaed with the broom. She will think you will take one look at her and fall in love. Grandma laughed as Grandpa set the broom aside and took her into his arms. But of course, you are not in love with her. Grandpa spun her around the room. Because you are a spy.